Okay. Now we finished with carbohydrates. We will do proteins.
Auntie, can you move the camera a little down, Auntie?
Is it okay?
Yes,
Auntie,
Auntie.
the sound is not clear.
Okay. Now we'll start with proteins. Just keep a paper and pen ready. Okay. Now, under biomolecules, we finished with carbohydrates. Now we will do another important class of biomolecules compounds, that is proteins. Okay. Now, proteins, as the name itself means, they are of primary importance, vital importance. Okay. Protein means prime importance. That means they are very essential for the growth and maintenance of living cells. Okay. So they are very important class of biomolecules. They are present in every cell of plants and animals. Every cell consists of thousands of proteins. The protoplasm of plant and animal cells contain 10 to 20% of proteins. Okay. So they are very essential for the growth and maintenance of life. And these proteins are the polymers of, structurally, they are the polymers of what are known as alpha amino acids. Okay. So, I will tell you what do you mean by this alpha amino acids. These compounds, they polymerize. There are two types of polymerization, addition and condensation. Here they undergo condensation polymerization with the elimination of a water molecule. Amino acid molecules join, a large number of amino acid molecules join to form a protein molecule. And we were going to study the biological functions of proteins also. Okay. So I can say proteins are complex biomolecules which are formed as condensation polymers of alpha amino acids. Okay. What do you mean by alpha amino acids? Amino means NH2 group. Acid means in organic chemistry it is carboxylic acid. These compounds contain both amino and carboxylic acid groups. Now, what do I mean by alpha? Alpha means whenever you have a COOH group, that carbon has to be given number 1. And the carbon next to that is alpha, next to that is beta, next to that is gamma, like that. You have to name it. Where did I keep my duster? Hey, just a minute. I'll just get my duster. So, now what do I mean by alpha amino acid? The carbon next to COOH group has NH2 group. That itself has NH2 group. That is why it is called as alpha amino acids. And what are the other groups? And you have one H, definitely one H is there. And you have another, I will represent it by R. What does that R mean? The R means all the amino acids differ in this R group. These three parts remain the same and they just differ in the R group. Different amino acids you get by changing this R. I will tell you how to write the amino acids. Now, there are actually 26 amino acids. Actually, there are 26 amino acids and out of which 20 amino acids are present in almost all the proteins. 6 are present only in special tissues. Okay, 20 are present in all the amino acids. So, we are going to study these 20 structures of these 20 amino acids. Now, coming to nomenclature, the amino acids, actually the first amino acid, this is a derivative of acetic acid or ethanoic acid. I can say it as 2 amino acetic acid or alpha amino acetic acid. It can be named, given the IUPAC name, but generally amino acids are more easily addressed by their common names only. We use common names only. Okay, the first member you call it as glycine, and normally they are given name based on their origin, source or some important characteristic property. Glycine was so named because it was sweet to taste. Okay, tyrosine was so named because it was first obtained from tyros, that is cheese. It was obtained from cheese. Okay, and proteins, so normally they are represented by the though you can name it by IUPAC nomenclature, they are given common names, and like carbohydrates, they are also represented by first 3 letters. First 3 letters you can use it to represent amino acids, and sometimes one letter symbol or code is given to them. Okay, you can also represent it like that. I will tell you how to name a protein later. Okay, now we are going to study the structure of 20 amino acids. The structure of 20 amino acids. So I will tell you how to easily remember the structure. I will write one, show you how to easily remember, then you can write it 2 times and you can learn. Okay, first as I told you, this part remains the same. This part remains the same. They differ only in the R group. They differ only in the R group. So what I am going to do is, I am going to change I will show you different R groups and different amino acids, how they are formed. Okay. Now, so I am going to write here only the R groups. When it is asked in the exam, you will have to write these 3 compulsorily and then write the R group, whatever you are learning now. Okay. First amino acid is glycine. Glycine. R group, I am just writing the R group, it is H. Easily I will tell you how to remember. First you remember, then alanine. Alanine. R group is CH3. Okay, R group is CH3. Then phenylalanine. Name itself says you have to add a phenyl group. Remove one H and add a phenyl group. That's all. How will you remember this? I will tell you how to remember. Just write GAP, gap. Remember gap, you will know glycine, alanine, phenylalanine. Make it into a group. Okay. So one is H, another is CH3, other is CH2, C6H5. Remove one H and put C6H5. You will get this. Understood? I will repeat. First you learn, then I will repeat and tell you how it is. Then I will just remove this heading. I will remove. Okay. Now next what you will do is, VLI. VLI. This is valine. Valine will have isopropyl group like this. Valine will have iso group. I will tell you how to easily remember. Once you know, you will be able to write. Valine will be CH, CH3, CH3. That's all. Then leucine, 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 you just put one CH2 before this. That's all. One CH2 before this. Now, next is isoleucine. Isoleucine will be, you shift one CH3 here and H here. That's all. These three are similar. Okay. These three are similar. Glycine, alanine, phenylalanine, H, CH3, CH2, C6H5 and valine, leucine, isoleucine. You write isopropyl group. CH, CH3 twice. You put one CH2 before that. CH2, CH, CH3 twice. Leucine. And shift one CH3 here and H here. You are going to get isoleucine. This is isoleucine. This is another. Okay. You write it like this only. You will learn. Next, containing OH groups. Containing OH groups. What are the compounds containing OH groups? Serine, threonine and tyrosine. How will I write? You write CH2OH. Easy. See, just write CH2OH, you get serine. Then CH3OH you write. You add one CH3 to this, you will get this. Threonine. Tyrosine, how will you write? CH2, one aromatic ring. Same thing, CH2, C6H5OH. That's all. Serine, Serine. Serine, threonine, tyrosine. These three contain OH groups. These three contain OH groups. You are able to follow what I am saying? Bharadwaj, Krupa?
Auntie, the board is not quite clear. Can you send a picture after writing?
Oh.
We were able to follow you, but the board is not clear, Auntie.
Yes, Auntie.
I'm going to the board, okay. Okay, I have sent the pic. Okay. So, just see the pic. GAP you remember. You remember VLI. Will you remember? VIL or VIL you remember. This is OH. You remember STD. Instead of STD, you remember STT. You remember STT. You will get serine, threonine, tyrosine. Then you remember LA, Los Angeles, you remember. How will you write that? Lysine, you remember CH2SH. Instead of CH2OH there, write it as CH2SH. Lysine, arginine. This has got a special CH2. Sorry. This one. Cytosine. Sorry, CM you remember. Chief Minister you remember. Cytosine and methionine. I will tell you that LA thing later. This is CH2SH and CH2, SCH3. This is, you remember, Chief Minister. CM, cytosine CH2SH and methionine CH2, SCH3. You put one CH2 here and one CH3 here. Okay, that will be cytosine and methionine. Then you remember Los Angeles, LA. That is lysine and arginine. How will you write that? Lysine and arginine. You write CH2 4 times NH2. CH2 4 times NH2 and arginine CH2 3 times you write, then you write NH. See, this is only, this structure is little difficult. This arginine structure is little difficult. What you have to do is CH2, cut one CH2, make it CH2 thrice, put NH2, put one carbon here and put double bond NH and NH2. Only this part is you have to learn. That's all. Lysine, Los Angeles, you remember. Lysine and arginine, they have similar structure. That is, they have CH2 4 times NH2, CH2 thrice NH, that means the same. Only this part is little tough. C double bond NH, NH2. That is arginine. Next, you will write AAGG, all the four. Very easy. How will you write? Aspartic acid, aspartic acid. You write it as CH2COOH. Okay? Aspartic acid. Then asparagine, you make it as that CONOH, you make it as CONH2. Make it amide. CH2COOH is aspartic acid. You make it CONH2, that will become asparagine. And same thing, add same structure, add one more CH2, that's all. CH2CH2COOH is glutamic acid. CH2CH2CONH2 is glutamine. This is aspartic acid, asparagine, glutamic acid, glutamic. Same structures. CH2COOH, CONH2, CH2CH2COOH, CH2CH2CONH2. Understood? Bharadwaj, Krupa?
Yes, auntie.
Yes,
Understood.
Auntie. Auntie, can you send a picture of the board?
Now I will say. Another 3 I have to write. Those 3 I will write it later. I will tell you how to easily remember those 3 also. Did you understand? I just repeat. Before I erase, I will just repeat. Just go through the picture now. You remember gap. Okay? You remember gap, glycine, alanine, phenylalanine. All the 3, same thing. Here CH3, CH2, C6H5. Phenylalanine. Then VLI or VIL, anything you remember. Valine is isopropyl group. Add one CH2, you get leucine. Add that CH3 shift here and shift that H here, you are going to get isoleucine. Isoleucine. Iso group is there. CH2, CH2, like that. You remember. VIL. Then you remember instead of STD, you remember STT. You remember STT. In STT, serine is CH2OH. Threonine is CH. Put one CH3 and put one OH. That's all. And tyrosine. Same thing. CH2, C6H5OH. It's an aromatic thing. Aromatic amino acid. Then you remember chief minister. CM. Cytosine. Cytosine will be CH2SH. Instead of CH2OH, write it as CH2SH. Cytosine. And then methionine. Methionine will be CH2SH. It is there. Put one more CH2. CH2, SCH3. That's all. Methionine. They will ask you, name the amino acid containing sulfur. I will tell you how the different questions can be. Name the amino acid having 2 NH2 groups. Name the amino acid having 2 COOH groups. Okay, like that. So, this is it. And I will write it here only. Because I have to tell you one more thing, that is right. Next you have proline. Proline. Okay. Proline structure you remember like this. It is an amino acid. This is an amino acid which doesn't contain alpha, this part at all. It doesn't contain the regular alpha amino acid part at all. Proline, his entire structure is only this much. For all other amino acids, you have to write this structure and R you have to substitute. All these are R groups. But for proline, this itself is the structure. It's an amino acid. So many times they have asked in multiple choice question. Okay. Then histidine. Histidine. Histidine is also very easy. Put CH2, one CH here and write a 5-membered ring. 5-membered ring and you write nitrogen and nitrogen. Wherever you write for one nitrogen, put H. Wherever you put H, you don't put double bond. Otherwise, you put double bond here like that. That's all. Alternate double bonds. This is histidine. And last one, tryptophan. Tryptophan will be very easy. You write like this. You write one 6-membered and one 5-membered, fuse them. And at the 5-membered ring, you put NH. That's all. These three are different. Proline, histidine and tryptophan. They are not, I cannot group them anywhere. So, how will you remember this? You remember PHT. Instead of PhD, you remember PhD. PHT. You all know PhD. You write it as PHT. So, it will be proline, histidine, tryptophan. Understood? Krupa?
Yes, Auntie.
Understood. So, now I will take the entire picture now. I have written a full, this one I have written. You remember now. I have sent it. You just zoom it and see. You will know the entire structure. So, how will you remember? You remember GAP, gap. Write 3 structures. VLI, write 3 structures. STT, write 3 structures. Serine, threonine, tyrosine. All the 3 very similar. All containing OH groups. Then CM, you write chief minister. You write cytosine, methionine. Both contain sulfur. CH2SS, CH2CH2, SCH3. Then remember Los Angeles, LA. CH2 4 times NH2. Only arginine structure you have to practice it. 3-4 times you have to practice. All other structures very easy. Only arginine structure. CH2 thrice NH. Another C double bond NH, NH2. That you have to remember. Then AAGG. This is very easy. Aspartic acid, asparagine, glutamic acid, glutamine. CH2COOH, CH2CONH2, CH2CH2SOOH, CH2CH2CONH2. Then you remember PHT. Instead of PhD, remember PHT. Here, the entire structure for proline is this. Very important. Proline entire structure is this. And histidine, put CH2 and put 5-membered ring with 2 nitrogens. And wherever you put one nitrogen, put double bond there. Another alternate double bond. That's all. And tryptophan, you put CH2, one 5-membered ring, one 6-membered ring. It is a benzene ring. Just put the ring over here, or you can show alternate single and double bonds also. That's also fine. And parallelly, you put one double bond and NH here. That's it. Is that clear now?
Clear, Auntie.
Yes, Auntie.
Clear. Very good. You practice 4-5 times today. It will register. That's all. And so amino acids, you are going to learn the classification. Okay, classification of amino acids. There are the amino acids which contain one NH2, one COOH. They are called as neutral amino acids. Okay, they are called as neutral amino acids. Like glycine, alanine, phenylalanine, all these are neutral. If they contain 2 COOH groups, they are called as acidic amino acids. Like aspartic acid, asparagine, all these, glutamic acid, all these are 2 COOH groups. They are acidic. And you have basic amino acids containing 2 NH2 groups. Like lysine, arginine, all these. Okay, they all contain, see, NH2 already there. Along with that one NH is there. Even tryptophan, even histidine, they are all basic amino acids. They are all basic amino acids. So, amino acids are classified as neutral, acidic, basic, depending on the number of COOH and NH2 groups present. Okay, that is one thing. And another thing, they are also classified as essential and non-essential. What do you mean by that? Essential are those which our body cannot produce, which has to be supplied in the diet. Non-essential are those our body able to produce, and even if it's not supplied in the diet, it's okay. Our body is able to synthesize certain amino acids which are called as non-essential, which have to be supplied in the diet. They are called as essential. There are 10 essential, 10 non-essential. What are the 10 essential? 10 essential will be, you mark it here, in gap B, phenylalanine is essential. In VLI, all the three, mark all the three, essential. And in STT, the middle T is essential. Middle T is essential. Then in LA, both LA essential. Then in CM, M is essential. M is essential. And in PHT, H and T are essential. So it will be 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 essential and 10 non-essential. Okay. Whatever I have marked, rounded off, they are essential. They have to be supplied in the diet. What are they? Phenylalanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine. In serine, threonine, middle T, not the tyrosine, threonine. Threonine is essential. And in CM, M, methionine. And LA, both, lysine and arginine. And in PHT, H and T, histidine and tryptophan. They are essential amino acids. Understood? Bharadwaj, Krupa?
Yes, Auntie.
Yes, auntie.
Understood. So, these are the essential and non-essential amino acids. Okay? So, shall I erase it now?
Auntie,
Erase
after that pic, you do not send, you do not write anything, no, auntie.
Pardon, Pa?
After you send that pic, did you write something?
No. I didn't write anything.
Okay.
I only marked the essential and non-essential. That's it.
Okay.
Okay? This is useful. You can write it.
Yes, auntie.
Yes, Auntie.
Okay, I sat one full day and derived this. How can I make it easier for you? Okay, so I was thinking, I felt grouping like this, it will make you easier. You can learn it in a easier way. Okay. Otherwise, it's difficult to remember. Just like in the book, that they are given in some other order which you cannot learn. Difficult to learn in that order. So if you group it like this, 3, 3, 2, 2, like that, similar ones you can easily learn. Today only you learn. 3, 4 times you write, you will be pakka. Okay? Okay. Now we will study the physical properties of these amino acids. Okay? Physical properties of these amino acids. Now, the first physical property. Amino acids are non-crystalline, non-volatile crystalline solids which melt fairly at high temperature. Actually, they decompose at high temperatures. They are very stable. Why they are stable, I will tell you. Why they are stable. Though they are organic, why they are so stable, I will tell you. So, they are non-volatile crystalline solids which melt at very high temperature. Actually, which will decompose at high temperatures. And they are all fairly soluble in water and they are insoluble in non-polar solvents. Okay? And third, in aqueous solution, they have high dipole moment. I will tell you why this point is important. Why it is important. Now, when you see the structure of an amino acid, I will just write it like this. Okay, it looks as though it contains an amino group and an acid group. Okay, it looks like that, but they are not simply amines or acids. No. And see, you have to study this after studying amines. Then only you will understand it better, because amines are the only compounds which are basic in nature in organic chemistry. Because they are basic in nature because of the lone pair of electrons on nitrogen. They take up a proton. Acids, they give the proton. Acids are the substances which donate a proton, and bases are substances which accept a proton. So what happens is, in the same molecule you have an acid part and a basic part. Carboxylic acid is highly acidic, NH2 is highly basic. So what will happen is, they neutralize in the molecule itself. They cancel in the molecule itself. How will they cancelize? They donate, carboxylic acid donates one proton to the amino group, and it will form like this. Like this. So it will be a dipolar ion. This is called as internal salt. Salt because acid and base is formed reacting to form a salt. And internal salt because acid part, basic part, both are present in the same molecule. That is the word for called in Greek, it is called Zwitter ion. Zwitter ion means internal salt. Internal salt or dipolar ion. So they will cancel each other's effect and they are present like this. Okay. So that is why they have very high dipole moment. See, and I have been telling, ionic solids, they have very high melting point. Ionic solids have very high melting point. Because amino acids exist as ionic compounds, dipolar ions, they have very high melting point. Okay. So they have the high melting point. Now what will happen to the Zwitter ion? This Zwitter ion, very interesting to study the Zwitter ion. You have NH3 plus and CHR, I will write it like this, and COO minus. Now what will happen if I add an acid? If I add an acid, this will accept that proton and you will get like this. You will get a cation. If you add an acid, you will get a cation, and if you subject it to electric field, this will move towards cathode. This will migrate towards cathode. Now, if you add a base, it will abstract proton from this and you are going to have an anion. You will get anions if you add a base to the Zwitter ion. Reverse is also true. So, if you add an acid to the Zwitter ion, you are going to get cations which migrate towards cathode, and if you add a base, you get anions which move towards anode. Now, what happens is that you keep on, this point is very important, you keep on adjusting the pH, you keep on add acid base so that the concentrations of both remain the same and it will be in the form of a dipolar ion. That means either if this is excess, you neutralize this, or if this is excess, you neutralize this, so that it will be having this structure, dipolar ion structure, and which will not migrate towards either anode or cathode. That point you call it as isoelectric point. Very important this is. What is an isoelectric point? It is the pH at which the amino acid neither migrate towards cathode nor towards anode. That point you call it as isoelectric point. Iso means same. Neutral amino acids, all of them have around 6 point something like that. Around 7 they will have. Acidic amino acids have pH around 3 to 5. And basic amino acids have from 7 to 10. Isoelectric. Why it is important? Why you have to know the isoelectric point? Because at the isoelectric point, it has the least solubility, and you are able to separate the amino acids, because each amino acid is having different isoelectric point. At that particular pH, it will be least soluble and you can separate them. This is used in separation of amino acids. This is about isoelectric point. So we have learnt about the nomenclature, classification, that is acidic, basic, neutral, essential, non-essential amino acids, and then you will have now learn Zwitter ion, physical properties under that Zwitter ion, and you also learnt about isoelectric point. Okay, isoelectric point you learned. Now you are going to learn the amphoteric nature of the amino acids. What do you mean by that? Amphoteric nature. What do you mean by an amphoteric nature? See, you take an amino acid. For example, I will take glycine. Very simple. I will take glycine. Now, this glycine, I can react with an acid. For example, HCl. Or I can react with a base like NaOH. It will react with both. Why it will react with both? Because it itself has got both acid and basic. If I add a base, acid part will react and you are going to get a salt plus water. Salt plus water. If you add an acid, you are going to get, what happened to my job? I don't know. If you add an acid, you are going to get a salt like this. So, to glycine, if you add NaOH, you are going to get sodium glycinate. If you add a base, you will get glycine hydrochloride. Glycine hydrochloride. Since the amino acids react both with a base and an acid, they are amphoteric in nature. This was a very important question asked earlier. Definite question from proteins. Okay, prove that amino acids are amphoteric in nature. So how will you prove? You treat it with an acid, get a salt. Treat it with a base, you get a salt. Since they react with both acid and a base, they are amphoteric in nature. Understood? That is the next point. Okay. Now after that, I will send you the notes. Don't worry. If you want, you just scribble it, but I will send you the notes. But the structure, did you write it? Because I don't have the notes. Only to teach I have done it that way. Okay. You have to write it down. Write down that. That's all. Okay. Now after Zwitter ion and isoelectric point, amphoteric nature, you are going to learn about the configuration. Very important thing. Same as sugars, I am going to compare the structure of amino acid with the structure configuration of glyceraldehyde. So, in glyceraldehyde, like glyceraldehyde, even amino acids have an asymmetric carbon atom, chiral carbon. Chiral carbon they have. Chiral carbon they have. So, if OH is on the left hand side, it is L series. L glyceraldehyde, L minus glyceraldehyde. Similarly, amino acids having NH2 group on the left hand side, they are called as L amino acids. And remember, in amino acids, L series is biologically active. In sugars, D series is biologically active. That's the difference. Okay, sugars belong to D series, amino acids belong to L series. Okay, L series means NH2 on the left hand side. Okay, you have to write. This is about the D and L configuration of amino acids. Understood this? L and D and L series?
Yes, auntie.
Okay. Understood. Now we are, anyway you have learned? No, everything, it is only a revision. Am I doing very fast?
Slightly, auntie.
Slightly fast. Okay. You tell me whenever, because I will not know I will not know whether I am going fast or slow. You please slow me down if you think I am fast. You understood till here, Bharadwaj?
Yes, auntie.
Krupa?
Yes, Auntie.
You understood. Okay, I will do it slowly. Okay. Now, coming to now, what we will do is, we know that it will have NH2 part and COOH part. Okay. Now, what will happen is, as I told you, amino acids can react between themselves and they can undergo condensation, that is removal of a molecule of simple molecule like water, and two amino acids can join. How? We will see. Now, if you have an amino acid like this and another, for example, I will take glycine and alanine. It is easier for me to take glycine and alanine. I will take glycine and alanine. Correct. One R is H, the other R is CH3. One R is H and the other R is CH3. Okay. Other R is CH3. Now what will happen is, if you react like this, see, this nitrogen end is called as N-terminal. N-terminal of the amino acid. COOH end you call it as C-terminal. Okay, always protein synthesis, it's the highly explored area now, protein synthesis. So we call it as C-terminal and N-terminal. So sometimes what happens, you can not just join, you will have to protect. Sometimes there are certain reagents where both of them react. So I either have to protect C-terminal and continue with N-terminal, or protect N-terminal by acetylation and then continue with C-terminal. It's like that. Okay, don't worry about that part. So you have N-terminal and C-terminal. Now, C-terminal of one amino acid reacts with N-terminal, that is NH2 is there. I split that one H and remove H2O here. When I remove H2O here minus water, you will have NH2 CH CONH, that is bond is like this, C double bond ONH. C and N are linked. Normally children, if you write CONH, they think that oxygen and nitrogen are linked. That's very wrong. Here the link is between carbon and nitrogen. CONH and the other amino acid. Other amino acid. So, this is, I have linked glycine and alanine. Glycine and alanine. C-terminal of glycine, I have reacted with N-terminal of alanine, and you remove a molecule of water, you get this compound. This is called as a dipeptide. It is called as a dipeptide. Dipeptide means which is a compound containing two amino acids, and dipeptide has one peptide linkage. This is called as peptide linkage or amide linkage. Both mean the same. Amides are CONH2. So peptide linkage or amide linkage. Dipeptide means one peptide linkage, two amino acids. I can now again react this with phenylalanine. For example, say phenylalanine. And the chain goes on. Okay, again I will get a compound over here. So this will be called as a tripeptide. Tripeptide means 3 amino acids and 2 peptide linkages. Very important. Why? Because they will ask you the number of peptide linkages. If they say tetrapeptide, how many peptide linkages it will have? Tetrapeptide.
24.
4.
I am asking peptide linkages. Tetrapeptide means 4 amino acids, but linkage will be 3. Here only the children will get confused. Okay, when I say tripeptide, it will contain 3 amino acids but 2 peptide linkages. You are able to follow this?
Yes, auntie.
So
The last one cannot.
one less you have to say peptide linkages.
Okay, auntie.
So how will you name this? You can name it as glycine is there, no? INA you cut. INA you cut. Glycylalanine. YL you have to add. Glycylalanine. Now how will you name this? Glycylalanenyl phenylalanine, like that. So it will be a very big name. So what we do? We just write the first 3 letters like glycyl, alanine, phenylalanine, like that. Like that we will write. Sometimes I told you, 1 letter code is given. Just write that 1 letter code. That's enough. That will give you the linkage. How many are there? I will know the series. I can keep on taking 1 gram is so costly. When I was doing post-graduation, 1 gram of glycine was 3,000 rupees. I don't know the cost now, really. It is much costlier than gold. So protein synthesis, I will tell you about their structure. They are very susceptible to pH and temperature. You have to maintain, that is why when we say fever, body temperature, when they get scared, because once the temperature increases, the proteins will become denatured. They will all die. Enzymes cannot, that's why you cannot eat food. You cannot digest food when you have fever. Because enzymes are not produced. They become deactivated. They are very susceptible to temperature. That is why we say acidity and I am not able to digest. Little change in pH also they are susceptible. Okay, so even when you do it in the lab, you have to provide that environment, temperature and pH. When I was doing post-graduation, there were some students who were doing PhD on protein synthesis. They used to struggle like anything. You can't get the protein at all. Like if you want to join 50 amino acids, like insulin has got 51 amino acids. So each amino acids, if you join, you have to be very specific. You will get D and L, separate D and L, take the L and then continue again. Protect the group, some reagents, very reactive. It's very difficult to do protein synthesis. Okay, so like this you keep on joining. Like this. If you join 10 amino acids, you get a polypeptide. More than 10, you call it as a polypeptide. And more than 100, you call it as a protein. Okay, so if you have from 2 to 9 oligopeptides they call, and you just leave that. If you have 10, you call it as a polypeptide, 10 amino acid, glycine, alanine, phenylalanine, leucine, tryptophan, histidine, like that. But if it is more than 100, it will have very high molecular mass. Okay, and as I told you, in proteins, compulsory atoms are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Compulsory. But apart from that, you can have sulfur, you can have phosphorus, you can have metal ions. Very important. Magnesium, zinc, iron, manganese, copper, all these. Okay, so magnesium is present in chlorophyll, iron in hemoglobin, zinc in insulin, like that. The metal ions are also present. Okay, so if it contains more than 100 amino acids, then you call it as a protein. It will be a very big molecule. Protein will be a very big molecule. So this is about how you prepare the proteins. Okay, about the polypeptides. Like little only you are studying. Okay, and proteins are also like you will have complete proteins, incomplete proteins. Like proteins which provide all the nutrients, like a meat, egg, fish, all that. Incomplete means like rice, wheat, corn, all those they will lack in one or the other amino acid. Rice will not have lysine, wheat will not have tryptophan, like that. They will lack in one or the other. But milk, egg, fish, meat and all, they will have all the amino. That is why they say protein rich food, protein rich food. Okay. So, complete and incomplete proteins. Okay. Understood? Now, how proteins and what are proteins, polypeptides and this one?
Yes, aunty.
What are polypeptides and amino acids? What is the difference between them? Okay. Now we will study the classification of proteins. Very important. Write down this. Classification of protein. Not given in the book properly. Please write it down. Classification of proteins. Classification of proteins. Now, proteins are classified based on under three headings. Three types. One, based on their shape and structure. Based on their shape and structure. Two, based on their composition. Based on their composition. Three, based on their biological function. Write down this. Based on their biological function. So, proteins are classified under three headings. One, based on shape and structure. Two, based on composition. Three, based on biological function. Okay? Now we will study one by one. Now, based on shape and structure, they are classified as two. One, fibrous protein and globular protein. Fibrous protein and globular protein. What do you mean by this fibrous and globular? Very simple. You have polypeptide chains. In both you have polypeptide chains. But the difference is that in fibrous protein, they all lie side by side. They all lie side by side and each strand is linked to the other by strong hydrogen bonds or disulfide bond. Sulfide means sulfur. Two sulfur atoms. There are very strong bonds between them. Between the fibers. You can know what you mean by a fiber one. Okay. So, they are the two strands, the thread-like molecules are linked to each other by strong hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds. Okay, because of this, they are very stable. Okay, they are resistant to small changes in temperature and pressure. As pH, they are very resistant to small changes in temperature and pH. They are water insoluble. They are water insoluble and resistant to temperature and pH. Example will be keratin, present in skin and hairs, nails. Otherwise, if you take bath, your skin would have dissolved or hair would have dissolved or nail would have dissolved. They don't dissolve because they are very strong. They provide strength and they are water insoluble. Fibrous proteins. Example is keratin, collagen, myosin, all these are fibrous proteins. And globular proteins, what do you mean? Here also you have polypeptide chain and polypeptide chains are coiled. are coiled in such a way that they form a spheroidal shape, spherical shape, globule shape. How they are coiled? They are coiled in such a way that hydrophobic part is inside and hydrophilic part is outside. That is, water, water affinity part is outside and water repellent part is inside, or lipophilic part inside, hydrophilic part outside. So because of this, they interact with water and they dissolve in water. They are water soluble. They are water soluble and they are very sensitive to changes in temperature and pH. Whereas fibrous proteins are strong, they are resistant. Whereas globular proteins like milk, casein, hemoglobin, all enzymes. That is why when we have fever, we are not able to eat food, digest food, because you don't have enzymes to hydrolyze them. So these are all globular proteins. Okay? You are able to understand, kids? Bharadwaj?
Yes, auntie.
Okay.
Understood.
If you don't understand, you just stop me.
Okay, auntie.
Okay. Now, based on composition, they are classified under three headings, into three types. 1. Simple proteins. 2. Conjugated proteins. 3. Derived proteins. Derived proteins. So, based on composition, they are classified as simple proteins, conjugated proteins and derived proteins. What do you mean by simple proteins? Simple proteins are those which on hydrolysis they give only alpha amino acids, nothing else. They give you only a number of alpha amino acids. Okay, simple proteins. Conjugated proteins, they on hydrolysis they give a chain of alpha amino acids and along with that another non-protein part. Non-protein part. It is called as the prosthetic group. Prosthetic, you know. Prosthetic means extra, artificial. Prosthetic group. So that prosthetic group is responsible for its property. It will impart very important characteristic properties to the protein. Okay. For example, the prosthetic group can be a nucleic acid. It can be a carbohydrate. It can be a fat. It can be just a colored substance. So accordingly, you have nucleoproteins, chromoproteins, glycoproteins, lipoproteins, like that. So conjugated proteins means they will have one protein unit, that is one chain of amino acids. Along with that, they will have one prosthetic group, which will be joint, like your joint train, road trains you used to have, like that. That will determine its properties. Okay, that you call it as a conjugated protein. Derived proteins means protein sometimes it will not undergo complete hydrolysis like simple protein. That like till you get alpha amino acids, you get different pieces. Okay, first you get one protein dividing into two bigger pieces. Then two bigger pieces dividing into four smaller pieces, like that. And then four dividing into eight still smaller pieces, like that. So, derived proteins are obtained by the partial hydrolysis of proteins. First, proteins, they will give you smaller unit, they are called as proteoses. Proteoses. Proteins, partial hydrolysis will give you proteoses. They are also big. They break giving peptones. They are little smaller. Peptones break down to give you polypeptides. Polypeptides means it will have 10, around 10. Peptones will have more than that. Proteoses more than that and proteins more than that. And if you hydrolyze polypeptides only, you will get the alpha amino acids. Like that. So, derived proteins means they are obtained by the partial hydrolysis of proteins. Okay, like proteoses, peptones and polypeptides. Understood? Understood, kids?
Auntie, can you send a pic of this, Auntie?
I will send you. I will send you the pic. Okay, I will send you. I also felt it is not nucleoproteins, glycoproteins, lipoproteins, chromoproteins, phosphoproteins. All these are conjugated proteins. Okay, I finish that and then send the pic. Now, based on biological function, they are classified as 5 types. Based on the biological function, they are classified as 5 types. What are they? First is enzymes. Enzymes. Enzymes means they catalyze the biological reactions. Enzymes will always have a protein amino acid unit and a non-prosthetic. That is called the coenzyme. It will always have the prosthetic group. Okay. Enzymes, they catalyze the biological reactions. And enzymes are very specific about pH and temperature. They are very good around neutral pH and 36 degrees centigrade. Okay. Now, enzymes. Next is antibodies. Proteins act as antibodies. What are antibodies? If any substance enters, foreign substance, which our body cannot take, they are called as antigens. Okay, our body doesn't need that. Then what will happen? Our body will produce an antibody and they will form a complex, antigen-antibody complex, and that is excreted from the system. That antigen will die. That means our body can fight with itself for so many diseases. We don't have to take medicine. We don't need medicine for that. Because our body has got amino acids, it will see the antigen, it's very clever. It will produce the proper antibody and it will bind with that antigen and remove it from the system. But sometimes it will not be able to recognize the antigen. Then only we need the antibodies. Sometimes what happens, some diseases, you cannot wait for it to come and then produce the antibody. No. For example, polio. There are so many diseases which are totally eradicated. What they do for the babies, small babies only, they inject the antibodies. They don't wait for the antigen to enter the body and then give the antibody. Because they are all deadly diseases. You will cripple for the entire life. So for polio and all, what they do, they give the baby, as soon as it is born, they give the polio drops. So that antibodies are produced against polio and antigen enters also, it is removed from the system. So for so many diseases, it is like that. We inject the antibodies. And sometimes it is not enough. We inject the booster doses also. So that body is strong enough to fight the deadly diseases. Okay. So gamma globulins, like that. Antibodies. Now, third is they also act as transport agents. Very important. Transport agents. What do you mean by transport agent? They carry stuff. Like transport agency. Like a best example is hemoglobin. What will it do? Hemoglobin will take oxygen, bind to oxygen, take it to all the cells, tissues, give oxygen, collect carbon dioxide, bring it to lungs and you exhale. You take in oxygen, remove carbon dioxide, and hemoglobin is the one, it is the protein. Hemoglobin has got 4 porphyrin units with iron in the middle. That is why if you consume cyanide, you immediately die because it will suck all the iron. Ferrous cyanide it will form. It will die. When hemoglobin is there, the entire body, once immediate action. Cyanide if you consume, gone. It will take all the iron. Okay. So that is the transport agent. No transport agent can be a better transport agent than hemoglobin. Nobody can be so efficient. It will not leave even a single cell. It will give it to all the cells sincerely, religiously. It will give it to all the cells. Okay. So they act as transport agents. Then they also act as hormones. They also act as hormones. Hormones are the ones which are secreted by the ductless glands in pancreas. Okay. They perform specific metabolic activity. Like best example for that is insulin. Insulin. So if in a normal person, what will happen? You will have the proper amount of insulin. Even if you take excess glucose, it will not stay in the blood. It will be stored as glycogen. Whenever glucose level goes down, it is a natural phenomenon. Glycogen breaks down to give the necessary amount of glucose. You know, 70 to 100 or 110, it has to be milligram. It has to be there per liter. So it will give you. But sometimes what happens, you have a problem wherein enough insulin is not produced. Then what will happen? Glucose is not converted to glycogen. Excess glucose will stay in the blood. That situation you call it as diabetes. That is, you are not able to control the glucose level in the blood. So what will you have to do? You have to inject inject insulin so that it will help convert that extra glucose to glycogen. You maintain the blood sugar level. Okay, so hormones are also proteins which perform very, very specific function. Even in oxytocin, which a mother produces it during child's birth. That is also question asked. Oxytocin. Okay, that is hormones. Last is structural material. They act as structural material. What do you mean by that structural material? Like fibrous proteins. Fibrous proteins act as structural material. They are present in the cell walls, like collagen, plant cell wall, then keratin, present in nails, hairs and skin, myosin, all these. Okay, so this is the classification of proteins. I repeat, classification of proteins. They are classified based. See, in the book, no, they have not given the classification properly. It is all cramped. I am not at all happy with whatever the material given in the book. That is why I am very particular learn this classification. Okay, so proteins are classified based on three categories, three main categories. One based on shape and structure. In that, they are classified as fibrous and globular. Name itself says one is a fiber, another is a globule. One is water insoluble, another is water soluble. Imagine what if fibrous was water soluble. We wouldn't have any hair or nail or skin or anything like that. Okay, based on composition, you will have simple, conjugated, derived. Simple will give only alpha amino acids. Conjugated will give alpha amino acids, along with that a non-protein part called prosthetic group. Example, nucleoprotein, glycoprotein, lipoproteins, all that. And derived proteins which are the products of partial hydrolysis of proteins, like proteoses, peptones and polypeptides. And based on biological function, they are classified as 5: enzymes, antibodies, transport agents, hormones and structural material. So now you know proteins are how much they are important. They are very important for every function of the body. That is why we say every cell consists of thousands of proteins. And protein synthesis is a very, very important phenomenon. Very important. You are going to study that actually. Proteins. I am not very good in biology, but I just managed to give the chemistry part of it. If you have taken biology, you can learn that. You will know better than me, more in detail. Okay, so you will know that. Understood, kids?
Yes, Auntie. Auntie, can you send a picture of the book?
Now I will send them. Now I will send. I think it is now I can send them. But anyway, I have written it in a very cramped way. But if you have understood it, if you are attentive in the class, you can understand. Definitely you can understand. Okay, you could follow this much.
Yes, Auntie, I could.
Okay, you had not learned this much when you did it in your schools.
No, Auntie.
Auntie, in our school, I still didn't write a test for biomolecules. Next week only I'll be writing. So I'm preparing now.
Oh, okay. But they have finished the portion, no? That I am asking.
Yes, auntie.
Okay. Did they give all the information what I taught now?
No, auntie. In our school, they were rushing through the portions.
Auntie, they
They
Ah,
didn't
just
explain this
read
much
the book
clearly and
first.
all.
oh, that's what. Even in the book, textbook, it is not very clear that this portion classification and all. It's very interesting, but they have not given it in this much detail. Prop, not detail. Not I'm not telling about the detail or non-detail. They have not given it clearly. That's what I felt, isn't it?
Yes, auntie, it's very normal, simple it is in book.
Hmm. Even the structure of amino acids, they're not. You cannot learn like that. How many times you will write 20 amino acids to learn like that? Now, don't you feel it is easier?
Yes, auntie, now it is easy.
Yes, auntie.
Now you just whatever I have given the tips, no? See the tips and try writing it 3-4 times. Take a rough paper and keep writing on 5-6 times. Easily you will write. You will teach your classmates. You will tell them I have learnt all the 20, I can write it easily. That simple it is. But in the book, if you learn, if you from the book, you cannot learn. I was thinking how to make that easier, how to make it easier. Then I thought I will group it so that OH one side, SH one side, and NH2 one side, COH one side. Then it will be easier. Aromatic one side, like that. I thought. Then I one day, full day, I did the research how to make it easier. Then I found out this. So I am happy teaching that to you. The first time I am teaching like this. Even I was teaching in a complicated way. Like I was teaching all the 20. I was teaching continuously. I can write it. All the 20 I can write it. So I was teaching like that continuously. But for the children, I found it will be difficult to write like that all that. Now, don't you feel it's easier now?
Yes, auntie.
Yes, auntie.
It's easier now. So even carbohydrates also. Now you feel it easier. You just write once, you will get all the any carbohydrate. You can write the structure. I have a structure. So
Auntie,
I
how
think
are
it
you
will.
able to
Huh?
remember all portions, auntie?
Huh?
How are you able to remember all portions, auntie?
Hmm. I've been doing for past 20 more than 20 years. I've been doing it, and the best part is I love the structures more than the biology part of it. I like the chemistry part. In fact, my students, so many of them, after taking up medicine, they have come back and they have learnt the structures again. And so many of them, they won't even eat the breakfast. They'll say, Madam has taught us the structures. Let us learn who will write the structure first. I've seen so many students learning like that. Competition. As soon as I finish the second hour, I'll go. They'll have lunch break. In the lunch break, they will learn. Like that. Even now, so many students, they call me. They used to come when I was working. Periodically, they used to come and talk to me and go. So I've been teaching, no, like I every year I will see, okay, this part is difficult for the kids. How can I make it simpler next year? At least I should make this part easier. Make it make it more approachable, more interesting. Chemistry should be more interesting. That's it. Like that, I will keep thinking, so that helps it probably. But I like this actually amino acids. I learnt and I wrote. You don't know how many papers I have written last year. How much I work, you don't know. Then I felt this is easier. You will learn. If you all learn, no, both of you learn and write it without looking at it, my job is served. My purpose is served. Okay? I think it is too much for a day. Isn't it? You have learned so much today.
Yes, auntie.
Okay, so I will stop here and then Monday I will continue with solid state. As Bharadwaj said, I will try to do defects. Defects also. I will do the defects, Bharadwaj. You tell me, all of you have learned solid state. Definitely you have they have finished in the school. I will do the defects and then tell me what is the difference.
Andy, what Andy? What did you tell?
Solid state, that defects part, I will tell you, I will teach you.
Okay, Andy.
Okay, you tell me how did you learn in the school then?
Okay, Andy, you're telling after you teach.
Yeah, after I teach.
Okay.
It is so interesting. You will love it. You will never forget. Okay?
Okay, Andy.
Okay, pa. I'll stop here and continue on Monday.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you,
kids.
Andy.
Bye.
Thank
kids.
you, Auntie.